We're here at the AMA UK Annual Songwriting Workshop, and we're back in Hackney, and this year we're working with students, and we've got them from ELAM, which is the East London Arts and Music School. We've partnered them with our own members, plus some CSAC songwriters, and we've got our coaches, Hewerdine and Dore.
We're going around and listening to other people going through the process, so we're watching and listening to other songwriters working with students. In this case, it's the students who have missed out of a lot of the last couple of years, personal interaction with other writers.
The idea was to try and get them to talk about their experience being young in a time when the world should have been opening up to them, but actually it closed down and they were stuck inside their homes with their families, and we wanted them to maybe open up about those experiences.
I did the last one with the elders, and it was a very different process. The first day was more about explaining the process and then listening to the elders' stories, whereas within half an hour of these guys meeting, they were already writing the songs, and they seemed to trust each other straight away. It was amazing.
They're very, very good, like really very, very good. Fantastic singers and performers, and a real understanding of form and things like that. But what I think everyone's encouraging them to do is tell their own story, and sometimes when you get into writing songs, there are lots of people trying to push you towards pure commerciality, and I think it's a really nice thing for a writer just to be reminded that you're trying to express something.
To draw stories from other people, to create something new, to tell a story that maybe has been told, but not in the way that a songwriter can tell it, with help from a storyteller. And especially the Americana genre, which lends itself very well to storytelling. This is the sort of thing that we should be associated with, because these are the people we represent.
If you can say to somebody, by the way, you don't have to do that, your story is more interesting than the one you thought looked more interesting and more acceptable. Your story is better.
It feels like really good to have my story told in a song like this, because it also wasn't something that I thought about like when I was asked about how my lockdown was. So it was good to tell the story of me and my mum in a completely different way, and like looking back on it and seeing something completely different.
My experience with like writing and co-writing, it's been a bit like, it's been new, but it's also taught me like a lot, because I normally write by myself. So working with someone else and having to like break down a song and work out like what melody we want to use, what lyrics we want to use together, it's been a bit strange, because obviously I haven't done it before, but I feel like I've gotten the hang of it and I've had a lot of fun.
So my experience with working with Annie in this workshop was, it was really smooth. Like, I felt like from the jump, like I was just able to lay out what I felt, especially like in my experiences during lockdown.
Having everybody create music in a really close space, and you can sort of hear a spill of what somebody else is creating and conversation going on, it makes it a really like open environment, so it's been great.
So this is something completely new to me. I've never done a co-write before.
I have not done much co-writing. I don't think I've not done any co-writing before this, yeah.
I usually do it just by myself or like writing to a backing track. So this was like a very different experience for me.
Yeah, obviously the young guys are into completely different types of music.
Yeah.
And a couple of them said about how they'd only ever written to a backing track, which couldn't change.
I've done a hell of a lot of drill. Like, people don't look at me and expect it. I don't rap or anything. I've done a hell of a lot of drill. I've done track wave. I'm mostly in the studio with rappers and drill producers. So to like switch up and like kind of go down this like folky country route, even though I've like did that originally in a sense, like, yeah, so it was nice to go back to it, because drill's fun, but it's a lot of anger, do you know what I mean? And a lot of like high intensity music, and it's nice to kind of chill, and it feels like more peaceful music that I'm creating, kind of. So yeah, it's nice to have the contrast. It definitely helps.
Typically, like vocally and just like the way I perform and how I sing is very R&B. I listen to R&B. I love neo soul as well, hip hop. Like, that's typically my genres.
Yeah, working in this style, because the style that my song is written in is more like kind of blues meets like country soul, which is like where Simeon and I like kind of integrate. Obviously it's quite different to what I normally do, but I feel like it's helped me to, I guess, broaden my versatility in a way, because it's pushed me out of my comfort zone a lot, which is like one of the goals that I had, not only for this project, but just like in general. So I found that it's helped me a lot.
Making a song that was also in a style that I wasn't familiar with was quite cool, and just to be able to tell the story, and it's such a nice song, like it's really sweet. So I'm happy to tell it from that point of view as well.
I kind of feel like we talked through what the song could potentially be, and it was just a case of pulling those parts of the conversation together and seeing how the song could live.
So the story was about me and my mum during lockdown, because I spent the entire lockdown with just my mum. After we went through that experience, we learned how to like communicate with each other effectively. So the story was about like seeing the silver lining in everything, and because I was grateful for the lockdown. Like if it hadn't happened, we wouldn't have had that chance to communicate with each other in that way.
It's always a privilege to sit down with a songwriter who's willing to, to go to those places and not, kind of hover around the surface of something. Those are always special co-writes, and Rhea did exactly that.
I feel like this song has a lot of potential. I really, really like it. So yeah, I've just been having a lot of fun with it, and I think it could potentially be like produced and made into something. The story that we decided to use as a narrative for this song is like a personal story of mine. So I didn't have a really good experience with secondary school. And so with the COVID lockdown, it really like helped me, because I feel like it gave me time to work on my mental health, because at that point of like in my life, I was kind of not like spiraling, but school just wasn't enjoyable for me. So I feel like the COVID lockdown really gave me an opportunity to just be at peace with myself and like pay attention to the parts of myself that needed work.
I really enjoyed working with Giovanni and like hearing his story. The lockdown, it was kind of an escape from that difficult time that he was having, so he found it quite positive. And he said something that stuck with me, which was like having peace in the disruption of it all, which I thought was like quite interesting and like quite different from my experience of lockdown, so it was interesting to hear that.
I feel like music is my way of releasing things. So anything that I've kind of bottled up inside, I will always let out through music.
Giovanni was quite open with me, and we just kind of were talking about his life for a second, and then writing things down that I thought was interesting that he was saying, like little phrases and stuff, and just kind of like piggybacked from there.
Yeah, maybe you guys are gonna see a little Giovanni/Simeon release. Stay tuned.
The main theme that I wanted to be prevalent throughout the whole song was how lockdown like negatively affected my mental health and my way of thinking. Like I was 16 when we first went into lockdown, and I don't just consider like lockdown just the 2020 summer lockdown. Like for me, it was the whole like years of COVID for like up until 2022, from when I was like 18. So for 2 years of my life, those years are very delicate and precious for like maturing and really finding yourself. And lockdown really, it just like started to chip away at my confidence, and I didn't know who I was. I felt like I lost my way, and I couldn't really express it to anyone. I felt like I couldn't really tell people of how I felt. So it was great to just like get it all out on paper and sing my heart out, basically, yeah. Concrete
walls slipped into his head a lot, because that's what it felt he saw an awful lot of and couldn't escape. And it caused him to reevaluate himself, because he felt he was changing in that time.
We had a key word, which was concrete walls, or that stood out to me. And so we started with just kind of a line, and then I was strumming certain things on the guitar, and then Ishan came up with a melody, which then we took back into the genre of more like, I don't know, acoustic singer-songwriter, and then obviously, it like as always with any song, at least in my experience, then it keeps shifting and changing.
I'm really happy with what's come out. Like, I've learned so much, and the product that we came out with is like, I really like it. I think the duet is really nice. Like, our voices complement each other really well. Yeah. So.
We just get into a conversation about what Kitty's experience of lockdown was, and it like quickly got to the point of, well, it was just very natural. It was like literally what we asked the question, what was it like for you? And you were just like, in my family, we all have very strong characters, and those 4 characters being inside one place for such a prolonged amount of time, that conversation and sort of talking about each person's struggle through that just makes it really easy for us to relate to, because we went through a similar thing. I suppose it's just like talking about how love can sometimes be suffocating.
I probably wouldn't have thought it, but my family can suffocate with love, and I've never thought that way. And then we've written this song, and it's like actually shown me, oh yeah, that is true, like that. And you kind of, I think that's one of the kind of like the therapy part of writing songs, because you can learn things from other people's lives.
I feel like what we kept doing and what we're still doing is like, how can we make this like so that other people can take from it, and like it's not just about like me, for example, like how can we make it more relatable? So I feel like music can do that in a sense where you put something so personal to you like into it, but then as you write it, it becomes kind of subjective, if you know what I mean.
We settled on a story that was very close to me, and it's my grandma. I have a very close relationship with her, and I wasn't able to see her for about 6 months because obviously the restrictions. And then I wasn't able to actually give her a hug for like a year. And just with the fear of, did I have COVID? Did anyone around me have COVID? I don't want to give her anything. We did social distance things, but it wasn't the same because she was there, but I couldn't reach out and give her a hug, or I couldn't touch her because it was traumatic. It felt quite cruel.
And that's the moment we fell in love with them, really.
Tear in my eye. That is so good. That's so good. Okay, cool.
I'm feeling it as well from you. I'm feeling it. Yeah. And you know, when Josh sort of said this story, like, and talked about his lockdown experience, and you know, it's something that we all shared as a, you know, together, all having very different experiences with it, and all going through that kind of roller coaster of stuff, but having different points that we can mark within this really intense, sort of isolated experience, you know? And when Josh started talking about his grandma was when I really kind of was like, oh God, you know, this is the point when you could feel the pain, you can feel the hurt, you can feel that kind of loss.
None of us knew when we started yesterday morning that we were going to hear these incredible voices. So yesterday, when we had the first run-through of hearing the songs, where they'd got to at the end of day 1, yeah, a bit of a mind-blowing moment, really, because the voices are incredible and the subjects just brilliant. The way that everyone's felt comfortable enough to be vulnerable, open and honest, on all sides of the groups working together has just been so lovely. And yeah, I'm really excited for these songs. Some of them feel like they could be hits.
Yeah, I think the workshop has been really valuable, because it's not only taught me to work with other people, but it's taught me to work with other people who, one, I've never met before, two, I've never heard their music, never heard them sing. So it's kind of pushed us into the deep end and I guess forced us to collaborate. But that's one of the things that, as an artist in the industry, you're kind of expected to do. So it's really just preparing us for the future, which is really beneficial.
I've learned so much, not just in like the songwriting realm and like how other because I've co-written before, but not like I've got extensive experience like that, and I've co-written with friends, so it's different when you first meet someone and you go straight into like songwriting. Like it's really eye-opening. Understand how other people's creative processes work and how you can learn from them, and it also like, oh wow, like I can use that to like in the future as well.
Yeah, I definitely think that doing this experience has made me feel a bit more open about possible co-writing in the future. I've always felt like, I never did it because it was like quite scary for me. The idea of doing it was quite scary, but I think this has like broken it down and it wasn't as scary as I assumed that it would be, so yeah.
I've done writing with people before and I feel like it's all about energy, and if you come with like the right energy and the right like kind of frame of mind going into it, then it's gonna go well, and I feel like that's what happened.
It's actually great to be given a task as a songwriter. It makes things, you've got a starting point. If you're just sitting in a room with a big blank page, it can be really difficult. If someone says, I really want to write a song about my relationship with my mother during lockdown or something, you kind of know what
it's a gift,
yeah.
It's a gift.
So as a songwriter, I love it if I get commissions or someone's asked me to do something.
I'll take away to try to not be so hard on myself when I'm writing with other people, and I try not to worry so much about that when I feel nervous, because I just didn't feel like you should feel like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great way to spend a couple of days writing music, writing songs.
I think for me personally, what I've learned is just like a reminder of like, you know, just the beauty of a song, like, and the process of like coming back to that truth and the thing that matters really, and realizing that we can do that in different forms if we're open enough to hear and learn from each other. And I think that's the beauty of songwriting together.
Reminisce on where I met. I see the young girl smiling. The rain that fell had to fall for the seeds of understanding. I feel the mother's fear turn to hope when the war of words was over. The storm that came had to come to shake the weight off of their shoulders. When all we had was time, when there was only you and I, when all we had was time. I felt your heart and you felt mine. I felt your heart and you felt mine. I felt your heart.